I've never told anyone this. Not the police, not my friends. I'm only saying it now because keeping it inside has become worse than the memory itself. What happened in my room 1 year ago still haunts me every single night. This was November 2023, 2:46 a.m. I woke up without knowing why. No noise, no nightmare. Something just pulled me awake. My room was dim, lit only by the streetlight outside. I was about to turn over and go back to sleep when I saw something I cannot erase. A man was standing in the corner of my room. Not moving, not breathing, just watching me. At first, I thought it was sleep paralysis, a dream, a shadow, anything except real. But then he stepped forward and I saw his face. Not distorted, not masked, just wrong. So wrong that my brain couldn't understand it. I froze. I couldn't scream, couldn't move. My mind kept trying to explain what I was seeing, but nothing made sense. His face wasn't disfigured or bloody. It wasn't a monster's face. It was almost normal, almost human. But everything was slightly off, like each feature belonged to a different person. Eyes too calm, jaw too stiff, skin too smooth, like it didn't fit him. And he kept staring at me with a look that felt rehearsed, practiced. Then, without a sound, he stepped backward and vanished. Not into the hallway, not behind furniture. He disappeared into the corner of my room, like fading into a shadow. I turned the lights on instantly. Nothing, no trace, no footprints. My door was locked from the inside, my windows sealed. I barely slept the rest of that night. But the next morning, something made it worse. When I checked my phone, the front camera had been recording for 2 hours while I slept. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. I replayed the last 10 seconds of the video, hoping I had imagined it. I hadn't. The whisper was real. And something else was wrong. The timestamp on the video said 2:12 a.m., more than 30 minutes before I woke up and saw the man in my room, which meant he was already there, watching me, standing over me, waiting. I tried to tell myself the video was hacked, edited, faked, anything except what it clearly showed. But then I checked something I wish I never had. The phone's motion sensor log. It only activates when the phone is picked up, tilted, or moved. There were 6 motion spikes throughout the night. Times I was asleep. Someone had been holding my phone, standing right next to my bed, recording me. And the last motion spike was at 3:27 a.m., 17 minutes after the whisper. That means whoever was in my room didn't leave when I thought he disappeared. He stayed. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. I replayed the last 10 seconds of the video, hoping I had imagined it. I hadn't. The whisper was real. And something else was wrong. The timestamp on the video said 2:12 a.m., more than 30 minutes before I woke up and saw the man in my room, which meant he was already there, watching me, standing over me, waiting. I tried to tell myself the video was hacked, edited, faked, anything except what it clearly showed. But then I checked something I wish I never had. The phone's motion sensor log. It only activates when the phone is picked up, tilted, or moved. There were 6 motion spikes throughout the night. Times I was asleep. Someone had been holding my phone, standing right next to my bed, recording me. And the last motion spike was at 3:27 a.m., 17 minutes after the whisper. That means whoever was in my room didn't leave when I thought he disappeared. He stayed. I didn't go to work that day. I couldn't. Every corner of my apartment felt wrong, watched. I kept replaying the moment he vanished, trying to understand how a human being could just disappear like that. Shadows don't swallow people. Corners don't open like doors. Unless he didn't use a door at all. At noon, I finally gathered the courage to inspect my room. I moved my bed, checked the closet, even pulled the curtains off the rods. Nothing. Then I noticed something strange. A section of the wall behind my dresser was slightly darker than the rest. A perfect rectangle. Fresh paint. Recently applied. I pushed the dresser aside and tapped the wall. It sounded hollow. Not drywall hollow. Empty space hollow. My skin went cold. I pressed harder. The panel shifted. A hidden door. A real, physical door. Someone had sealed a crawl space in my bedroom. And whoever was inside my room that night might have come from there. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't want to open that hidden panel, but something inside me needed to know. Needed the truth. With 2 fingers, I pulled the edge of the panel until it cracked open. A wave of cold, stale air hit my face. Not old dust, not dead space, air that had been breathed recently. I turned on my phone flashlight and leaned in. The crawl space went deeper than I expected, almost like a narrow tunnel running behind the walls. The beam of light shook in my hand as it revealed objects scattered inside. A blanket, a bottle of water, a small flashlight with dying batteries, and something that made my stomach twist. My missing hoodie, the one I thought I misplaced a month ago. This wasn't an old storage area. This wasn't forgotten architecture. Someone had been living behind my wall. And the worst part? The dust near the back of the tunnel wasn't settled. There were fresh footprints in it, facing outward. As if someone had been standing there, watching me sleep. I stumbled back from the crawl space, my heartbeat slamming against my ribs. This wasn't just someone hiding. This was someone living here, watching me, studying me, moving through my walls like my apartment was theirs. I should have called the police right then. Anyone would. But something stopped me. A sound. A soft, deliberate tap from inside the crawl space. Not an animal. Not settling wood. A tap that felt like a response. I froze. My flashlight slipped from my hand and rolled across the floor, pointing directly at the opening. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a shadow moved, slowly, like someone shifting their weight, deciding whether to come forward. I slammed the panel shut and shoved the dresser back with all my strength. It didn't matter if it wasn't enough. I just needed it closed. The tapping stopped, but then a whisper seeped through the wall, muffled and horrifyingly close to my ear. Not angry, not rushed, just familiar. Why did you open it? My entire body went cold. He knew I was there. He knew I heard him, and he wasn't hiding anymore. I backed away from the wall so fast I nearly tripped. That voice. It was the same one from the video. Calm. Close. Too close. I grabbed my keys and bolted out of the apartment, not stopping until I reached the parking lot. I sat in my car with the doors locked, hands shaking uncontrollably. For an hour I just stared at my building, waiting to see someone leave. But no one did. No door opened, no lights turned on. Nothing. Finally, I went back inside. Not because I was brave, but because I had no choice. My wallet, my laptop, my ID, everything I needed was still in there. I inched down the hallway, every step heavier than the last. When I reached my bedroom, the dresser was still against the wall. The crawl space was still sealed. But something was wrong. Terribly wrong. My bed covers were pulled back, like someone had been lying there recently. And on my pillow was a piece of paper. One sentence, written in trembling handwriting. I heard you looking for me. My vision blurred as I stared at the note. The handwriting wasn't shaky from fear. It was shaky like someone who hadn't written in a long time. Someone whose hands weren't used to normal things. Someone who lived in the dark, behind walls. I forced myself not to scream. Instead, I grabbed the note with 2 fingers, like it was poison, and checked the rest of my room. Nothing else was touched. Nothing missing. Everything exactly where I left it, except my closet door. It was open by an inch, just enough for someone to look through. I stepped closer, breath held. The closet was empty, but the air inside was cold, colder than the rest of the apartment. And then I noticed something horrifying on the floor. Dust. Disturbed. Like someone had been standing there recently, pressed against the door, watching me sleep. I slammed it shut and backed away. This wasn't a break-in. This wasn't random. Whoever he was, he knew my habits, my schedule, my sleep patterns, and he knew exactly where to stand so I wouldn't wake up. I needed answers, real answers. Something about this apartment had felt strange from the first night, but now everything made sense. The missing items, the occasional cold spots, the feeling of being watched. Someone had been here long before me. I opened my laptop and started searching for the building's history. Old forums, archived listings, anything. Finally, I found something. A tenant review from 2017, written by a woman who lived in my exact unit. Her review was short. Terrifyingly short. It said, "If you hear tapping behind the walls, don't open anything. Don't move the furniture. Don't acknowledge him." My heart nearly stopped. Someone else had heard him. Someone else had lived through this. And then I saw the username of the person who posted that warning. I Googled her name. The first result was a news article. She had gone missing. No suspects, no forced entry. Her door had been locked from the inside. Exactly like mine always was. Exactly like the night I saw him. I felt sick. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely scroll. The missing woman lived in my exact unit, 6 years before me. She heard tapping. She warned future tenants. And then she vanished without a trace. No break-in, no signs of struggle. Just gone. I read deeper into the article. Her neighbors reported strange noises in the walls, missing food, and moments when they swore someone was watching them through the vents. Police dismissed it as paranoia, but she wasn't paranoid. She was right. My chest tightened as I remembered something I hadn't thought about in months, the tiny vent at the foot of my bed. I always assumed it was broken because it never blew air. I crawled toward it cautiously and lifted my phone flashlight. Inside the vent, carved into the metal with something sharp, were 4 words: "I hear you too." The scratches were old, years old, which meant he'd been there long before me, watching, listening, waiting. And if he wrote that to the last girl, what message did he have for me? At that point, I couldn't stay in the apartment another second. I grabbed my bag, my keys, and ran out the door. I drove to a 24-hour cafe and stayed there until sunrise. Every time the door opened, I jumped. Every time someone walked past my table, I froze. I kept replaying the footage, the whisper, the hidden crawl space. How long had he been there? How many nights had he stood over me without me waking up? When the sun finally came up, I forced myself to go back, not because I wanted to, but because I had no choice. I needed my documents, my work laptop, everything I owned. I told myself I would pack fast and leave forever. But when I opened my door, the apartment was wrong. Different. Too quiet. Too still. And then I noticed something that froze me in place. My bedroom door was closed. I never close it. Ever. Someone closed it from the inside. I stood in the hallway, barely breathing. My bedroom door wasn't just closed. The light beneath it was flickering, like someone was walking between me and the lamp. But I hadn't left any lights on. I took one step closer. The floor creaked, and from the other side of the door, I heard it. A slow, dragging inhale. Someone was inside my room, breathing. I reached out with shaking fingers and pressed my hand to the door. It was cold, ice cold. I swallowed hard and whispered, "Who's in there?" No answer. But the breathing stopped. Not faded, not moved, stopped. And then, right beside my ear, through the wooden door, a voice whispered back, "You came back." My legs nearly gave out. This wasn't a thief. This wasn't a squatter. This was someone who knew me, or thought he did. Someone who believed we had unfinished business. I backed away slowly, terrified that if I turned my back, he'd open the door. But he didn't need to, because the doorknob began to turn on its own. The doorknob turned slowly, too slowly, like whoever was inside wanted me to hear every second of it. Metal scraping, mechanism shifting. My pulse pounded in my ears so loudly I could barely think. I stepped back, then another step. The knob clicked, but the door didn't open. Instead, something slid from underneath it, the corner of a small folded piece of paper. My blood ran cold. I stared at it, praying it wasn't meant for me, praying it wasn't what I thought it was. I forced myself to bend down and pick it up. My fingers trembled as I unfolded the note. Inside were 3 words. 3 words written in the same uneven handwriting as before. I found it. Found what? What was he talking about? Then something clicked in my memory. The crawl space. The blanket. The footprints. There had been something in the very back I hadn't examined, something buried in dust, something he wanted me to open. And now he had it. Whatever it was, he had been waiting years for someone to return. My entire body went numb. He wasn't trying to scare me anymore. He was telling me he'd completed something. Something he'd started long before I ever moved in. I backed slowly toward the front door, never taking my eyes off the bedroom. Then, from behind the door, I heard movement. Not footsteps. Dragging. Like someone pulling something heavy across the floor. I bolted. I ran out of the apartment, down the stairs, and into my car. I didn't look back. I didn't breathe until I was on the highway. I never returned, not even for my belongings. 2 days later, the building manager called. They found my unit completely empty. No furniture, no clothes, no electronics, no signs of anyone living there. Everything inside was gone. Even the walls. They said the crawlspace was larger than they thought, connected to multiple units, like a hidden network. And in the very back of it, they found a blanket, a dead flashlight, and a message carved into the wood. Thank you for letting me out. I don't know where he is now, but every night at 3:14 a.m., I swear I hear breathing behind my wall.